Now we're live.
Hit it the second time. I made it work. Apparently, our server is not our server, but the internet in general is slow. So we apologize for being a little bit late. Hello, everybody. Welcome to UGA Sports Live. My name is Radi Nabulsi. I'm joined by Dayne Young and Jim Donnan. It is just after 7 o'clock on Tuesday, first day of spring practice. Kirby Smart met with the media today. We asked him a bunch of questions, and we got to speak to three of his players. And the Bulldogs had their first of 15 spring practices today. We'll give you some insight into that here a little bit later on. But first, we're going to pepper Coach Donnan with a bunch of questions. If you have questions, go ahead and get them into the comments section. And if you're watching this on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, wherever, get your questions in. We will answer it as the show progresses. And we will play a couple clips from Kirby Smart's press conference earlier today, and we want to get into those. But first and foremost, just want to get the some overall fall thoughts from Jim Donnan, former Georgia Bulldogs head coach, Hall of Famer. Coach, first day of spring practice. How you feeling?
I feel good. Just the fact that they're getting started. You know, that's one thing that you always look forward to with a new group, returning veterans, and also influx of new freshmen, and then the transfer portal. And this is where you start really putting your team together. You had the off-season program and strength and conditioning and all that, but now it's, all football. So exciting time to see how this team defends its SEC championship.
I thought it was interesting. Kirby Smart mentioned they had like 35 new players. He says that's just the new way of it now. In the past, you'd have 22 to 25 new guys. Now you have a bunch of new players. And it's crazy that you get pretty much your entire signing class comes in. Plus, like you said, the transfers. Early word, Zachariah Branch looks good. He's twitchy as anything. Noah Thomas looks good. Of course, they're in shorts and helmets today, Coach. So everything we see is going to be, or everything we even hear about, is to be taken with a grain of salt. But
yeah, I could just tell you before the show, before anybody said anything, the reports would be everybody that's new looks good and everybody that's old looks like dog shit. That's just the way it is. I mean, everybody, that's just a general consensus of the way people look at things sometimes that are, so most of them are, they get to go out there, have objectivity, but there's you really don't know what the guys are being asked to do. You don't know if it's a scout team guy covering him. You don't know if it's a first team guy going against a guy on a pass rush. You don't know any of that. So, but certainly on the eyeball test and the guys that we got going in, we got every kind of, I don't want to stick a hole in anything, but I feel like we've got certainly some young players and some guys on the transfer portal that have the ingredients to blend in and supplement the present team. And I'm excited about myself, some of these younger guys that I saw developed as the season progressed last year and got to the point where they were in position to help our team. And now they're going to need to do that since some of these guys have already left. So it's everybody wants a little bit of food it's just people want to hear about it. So, hey, I'm sure y'all know more about it than I do as far as who looks like what, but we'll see.
It's also interesting that there's at least 11 guys who are not practicing. A lot of them are starters, from the surgeries and issues that they're trying to clean up, lingering issues from last season. So it's going to be a lot of, again, 35 new players, but also guys getting reps with the first and second team that just haven't been there before. Kirby Smart today was asked about his offensive line, and he said, look, we've got a lot of players who haven't played a snap, and it's time for them to grow up. Coach, you got to rebuild that offensive line.
Yeah, we do lose. Just look at the guys in the combine and the ones that'll be working out tomorrow on our pro day. 4 guys that, got a chance to get drafted that were starters. And then, we got another 2 that were both hurt last year, Green and Froling. So I think from a standpoint of the way they did things last fall and throughout the fall camp and throughout the fall practice was, really worked some of those second, third team linemen against number one defense a lot. And they've had some really good reps to get ready, but it's still not like they're in a game. And the thing that hurt us last year from that standpoint is we never had many games where, fourth quarter you could put the second team in. You know what I mean? We were always fighting for our lives, trying to hold on to a lead or come from behind. So you didn't have the natural, even the game against Massachusetts, they were keeping the ball away from us in the third and fourth quarter. So you just didn't get the natural game reps that you normally would.
So you got the same players. I mean, they get the players who are going to move up. A lot of change there, but you had the same coaches, and it was pointed out that this is the first time in Kirby Smart's tenure he'll have the same coaching staff that he ended the season with when he begins spring practice. There's a lot of continuity there, Dayne. You've got a clip from Kirby Smart talking about that. Let's touch on the continuity aspect of this.
I really don't pay much attention to anything outside. I got a lot of confidence in this organization, the foundation we've built. I've got the best staff in the country, and I have no doubt about that. I've got one of the most experienced SEC staffs there is, and to be honest with you, there's a lot of confidence in that, and I have a lot of confidence in it.
Wrong clip.
I know. Well, you started out by going staff and all 10 returning, and I was on it, and then you pivoted on me. So
my apologies.
It's all good. That's teamwork on the fly here. That was Kirby being asked about assistant coaches. Stability in college football. We can go there, and then we can discuss both of these after.
We have stability. We have retention. We have a great foundation. We're built to last. We don't have to worry about year in, year out, tons of change. I think this league will chew you up and spit you out. This league is brutal when you look across, and I'm sitting in the SEC head coaches meeting, and there's Stoops and I are the most tenured guys, and there's a lot of guys that are in their first 3 to 4 years. And then you look at their staffs, and there's tremendous amounts of turnover, and then you look at their rosters, and there's even more turnover.
Yeah.
He had those numbers off the top of his head. Georgia's turning over the roster 30, 35%, that range. 10 years ago, you tried to get down to 25%. But, Coach, you was saying that that's still among the lowest in the country in this era.
Yeah, I mean, we don't lose a lot of guys in the portal that really are going to be a big part of our team. We've lost some good players, no question about it, but not as many as some teams. And part of it is they know they're going to get developed here, and they're going to get realistic pay compared to everybody else, and they like to win on this level. So when he says retention, I think that's part of it. And we've talked about NIL and everything, but playing time is really critical to a lot of these players, and we do a good job of giving them every opportunity to play, whether it be on special teams early or what it might be. So he's very sold on that, and I'm sold on the model that he's developed here. I mean, you can't knock it. You look at its success rate, 30-2, last 32 SEC games, pretty strong.
You also look at the fact you talk about the development, and yes, guys go in the portal because you come to Georgia and you were the top dog at your school, at your high school. Everyone's talking about you going to the league. You get to Georgia and they're all good and they're better than you, and you're not playing. And your entire family, your entourage, all your high school buddies are asking, when are you going to play? But you can't beat out the guy ahead of you, so you transfer because you can't make it there. But the ones that do make it at Georgia, you had 14 of them, and it could have been more. There are a couple guys that didn't get invited to the NFL Combine, but you had 14 guys go to the NFL Combine. We're talking 3 potential first-round draft picks, 4 offensive linemen being drafted, it's guys in the secondary being drafted, linebackers going. This is becoming LBU. You talk about that continuity, and it's the same thing year after year. We're even doing a promotion at UGASports. It's 50% off, and we titled the promotion UGA Reload because he's signed the number 2 class last year. As you say, Coach, we're always talking about the new guys that are coming in, but it's because that standard, that continuity of bringing in great players, developing them, keeping the ones you want to keep. They do a great job of hanging on to the guys that they know can play at this next level. And you also, that process makes Georgia's coaches very desirable. That system, he's exported that system to a lot of coaches who have gone on to do bigger, better things after his staff who've got promotions. You saw Dane Lanning just signed a huge contract extension for the stuff that Fran Brown's doing, Sam Pittman, all these guys who've been successful implementing Kirby Smart, Nick Saban's system. That continuity, that process is going out there. Georgia's coaches have turned down job offers because they want to be here and continue developing. We know that they've come after Georgia's coaches numerous times. This year, he's keeping all of them. The one criticism that we hear about two of his coaches is that, well, nobody's coming after Stacey's Heroes. Nobody's coming after Mike Bobo. And I'm like,
how do they know that?
You took the words right out of my mouth. I'm like, I don't know that that's true, but Kirby Smart was asked about the criticism of your coaches, and that's the clip Dane just played. He says, look, I don't pay attention to it. I did 10 years at a different school. I've done 10 years here. I've done 20 years of having people second guess us. Look at me, the number of titles he's won. He says, look, I just don't pay attention to it. I have the best staff in the country. I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I'm just saying that Kirby's process and his system coaches, it's the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, I think one of the things on any chain of command is the leader needs to feel like that whatever he's articulating is getting across all the way down through every phase of the ladder. And as long as he feels like that, then it doesn't really make any difference as far as the outside world, because it's easy to criticize for sure, but the reality is he sees day to day what happens. He sees injuries. He sees whatever might be, but whatever role. But I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This is the early show in the year. Kirby Smart's one of the few coaches that I've ever been around that can coach every position. By that I mean he could go to any school in the country and be a secondary coach, an offensive line coach, a tight end coach, wide receiver coach, quarterback coach. Every position, he would be an authority on it because he grew up as a coach's son, but he made a point as he developed himself as a coach to learn both sides of the ball and learn the techniques involved. And one of the things that he demands from his coaches is being as good as you can at your position. And I'm going to make sure of that because I know it. And I'm going to check you out, and I'm going to watch your drills, and I'm going to listen to your meetings. You know, we've got a good system over here. In our process that when the players are having a meeting in Kirby's office, he's got ability to listen to every meeting or watch every meeting through a video system in his office, so he can see exactly what the coach is talking about without the coaching even knowing that. Not that he's trying to snoop on it, but it's just there for him. And I think it's something that you got to coach the coaches. I'm giving a little philosophy here.
That's good.
You've got to coach the coaches. From that standpoint, you got to motivate the motivators. These are the guys that are seeing these kids day in and day out on a lot more of an individual basis than you are. So you've got to motivate them to be as good as they can be and transcribe to them what your philosophy is going to be. And he's not going to put up with anything. And if you see over the years, he's made some changes in his staff, some voluntarily, some involuntarily, but he'll make those changes when he deems necessary. And I think it's certainly part of anybody's MO that listens to our show or is on your site. Certainly they can second guess. Every coach in the country gets second guess. And that's their discretion, but I really don't see the rationale in some of it, and I'm trying to be as objective as I can. But these same coaches 2 years ago had as good an offense as anybody, and this year a lot of situations happen. We talk about the two receivers getting in trouble, and the injury to Ratledge, with the tightrope, whatever it might be. And then the myriad of injuries to the running backs, but. We've been so spoiled on a success level that everybody just expects you to roll them over and get something better. But I get a chance to watch a lot of coaches in the country, watch them fundamentally, watch them practice, I did that when I was working with ESPN. And one thing I always said when I'd watch him, I'd say, well, I never considered that. I probably should have used that. Or I would say, look, this guy I probably could help him here. He could do a better job teaching this. And I don't get that feel out here watching Georgia practice. Occasionally I'll make a suggestion, but our guys are excellent teachers. They're good motivators, and they do what they can to develop the players within the framework of what the system is. So when he says he feels like he's got the best staff in America, that's all I need, because I believe in him. And I think beating a dead horse here, talking about we need to make a change. Let's wait and see what happens next year. I mean, this next year's already started, so let's get behind them.
I'm with you 100% when it comes to getting behind them. Nothing's going to change now, so root for your guys. Get excited about them. Try to. Nothing you can do, but you can at least hope that they get it across the finish line. I will say this about Kirby Smart. He talks about his process. He talks about his continuity. It's there. He's made changes when he needs to. He's got the who the hell might have second guess him? Who the hell is anybody when he's the most successful coach in America right now? But I will say he can be brutally honest. So if he thought his coaches needed to do better, he will say, we need to coach better. We need to get better. He'll say it after a game. We got our butts kicked. We got out coached. We got our asses knocked in the dirt. He will call out himself or his coaches or his players when they do so. So part of it, I'm sure, he's like, hey, I know there's criticism out there. I'm going to stand up for my coaches and my staff. But at the same time, he's also like, this is how I feel. He's not trying to win a PR contest by, putting a nice face on it. That's the way he feels. Now, can we all disagree with him? Sure. But who has the I don't want to appeal to credentialism, but I don't think any of us but you, Coach, you're a Hall of Famer. The rest of us don't have the credentials to second guess him. So he's won as much as he has. So.
10th year, starting the 10th year, or is this 11th?
10th spring practice.
And if you look back at the what's happened when he felt like something needed to be changed, he changed it. And so it's not like he's not going to. So if he's saying he feels like this is the way it is, that's good enough for me. And if I felt any different, I certainly wouldn't say it on this show, because it's not.
But hey, I'll tell folks right now, you say the same off the show. If you were, there's no difference. You're not hiding the ball from our viewers. So.
Yeah, I do feel like, though, from a positive standpoint, that watching our guys coach, like I said before, I really feel like they're excellent teachers, and they get, we got 2 or 3 guys working with the quarterbacks. I mean, Montgomery Van Gorder, real student of the game. Brandon Streeter recruited all those guys over at Clemson and coached. He's out there. You got Bobo out there. You got a lot of individual help there. And I just feel like, from my standpoint, that we're in good shape teaching-wise, and game management, all that stuff. I mean, there's always something you look back on, you wish you'd have done different, that's for sure. But you're going to call 70 or 85 plays, 75, 80 plays in the game. And sometimes they're not the best calls, but hey, that's a hard get the right call every time.
Y'all mentioned that, like, in the past 9 years, he's made changes when they had to be made. I go back to the first offensive coordinator he hired at Georgia and what he said about why he hired Jim Chaney at the time. And it was, that guy has run offenses that have given my defenses trouble. It has been hard to move the ball, hard to stop a team that can move the ball like that. That tells me that Mike Bobo and Georgia's offense is tough to stop in practice quite often for one of the best defenses in the country.
Yeah, one of the things he said when he brought Mike in after Coach Monken left was that first drive that Auburn did against our number 1 defense that year, just tore us up with formations and different things like that. And so, and we saw Mike do the same thing when he really didn't have a great defense here. But I think we need to go ahead and talk about some other stuff. I mean,
No, well, let me make the transition here. Talking about what he demands from his coaches, he also demands a lot from his players. I thought it was interesting that you can have the best staff ever and you can have good recruiting, but Kirby made a point to mention you guys, and he kind of pointed out to the audience, all the reporters out there, said, you guys think whoever has the most talented team wins. I'm telling you, the team that plays the hardest wins. And what he's looking for this spring is who's going to play the hardest, who enjoys playing the game. And he made the point talking about football. He said that guys who are concerned about their NIL deals are not going to be the best football players. I'm looking for the guys who want to be there. So he's talking a lot about that. I think we have the clip, Dayne.
To learn about them this spring.
Yeah, I want to see the fire. I want to see the passion, the energy. I want to see who wants to be a good football player, who really cares about this game. Like, they care more about the game than they do about their NIL revenue stream. Like, if you really, really, really care about the game and you want to be good, it doesn't matter about any kind of money. It matters how I play the game. And more we're seeing across college football, the purest, the ones that care about the game the most, play the hardest.
What do you think, Coach?
I agree 100%. It's a new world with the money. There's no question about that. But it's like an NFL, though. I mean, all those guys are getting paid too. But you better those guys playing for their second contract maybe play a little bit better than the others. But realistically, you want guys that are going to bust their butt, and you got to avoid losing as much as you win. You got to avoid the mistake. And we made some critical mistakes in games last year that really hurt us. And those will be ones that they practice on. And always talked about spring practice setting a tone. We know what won for us last year, and we know what got us beat. And we're going to really accentuate what won for us, and we're going to work on the things that got us beat and build it all together. And then every team has got its own identity. It's based on what your strengths are and your defensive strengths. And Dayne and I and Roddy, we've talked about our defense has got to turn the ball over. It's got to do a better job of field position. It's got to get off the field. I mean, limited possessions for the offense were really critical this last year because the other team kept the ball away from us so much. You look at teams backing them up, and then they come off the goal line and keep the ball for 3 or 4 and 5 minutes at a time.
Mississippi State, Coach.
And you mean Ole Miss or Mississippi State too?
You talking about Van Buren, the way that he was moving the ball?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing too. Our defensive stats were not anything near like they've been.
No, not at all. We focus on offensive stats all the time, but the defense it didn't look like a Kirby Smart defense.
Yeah, we got to get better playing the ball in the air. That's for sure. No question. I think we had 8 interceptions. We got to do a better job on that, but we'll do that. We had some really good defensive backs drafted last year. I mean, good Lord. And, the birds feel the same.
The playing hard part, though, this is a theme I'm seeing across sports right now. And I heard JJ Redick, coach of the Lakers, who had been a podcaster trying to understand techniques of ball and everything. Here's a quote that he had. I think this was last month. I had a revelation, 6 weeks ago, that math is really important. Guys have to communicate, all that stuff. But there's really one cheat code in the NBA, and that's playing hard. If you play hard every night, you have a chance to win. And if you don't play hard every night, you're probably going to lose. Which to me, that just said, when you get to a certain level, and this is the case when you make it to a team like Georgia, you know how to play football. You can get better, sure, but you know how to play football and what's required. It's how do you motivate that? That seems to be what the task of a coach is these days.
Yeah, and I'd tell JJ, get the ball to Luka down the stretch, too.
That's a pretty good coaching move.
Well, I go back to other games where we've sat on that couch, Coach, you and I, Dayne's behind us, and Georgia was struggling to put somebody away, and you said somebody needs to make a play here. You didn't say they need to call a different play. You didn't say they needed to call a different scheme on defense. You didn't say, hey, we need to go man, stop pressing here. We need to go palms. I want to see, a spy here. You said it. And to the casual fan, it might sound like a cliche, but it is that play harder, make a play. And I've been on the sideline covering games for Georgia for 30-something years. And whenever, not every time, but there have been times when Georgia's struggling, when you know they're beating a team that they should beat. And you got the feeling that almost everybody's looking at each other, waiting for somebody else to make a play. You guys are big tennis fans, and you know that in tennis, it's you versus the other guy. You can't rely on your defensive end or a quarterback or somebody else to pull your ass out of the fire. But sometimes when you're on the team, you're like, somebody else is going to make a play, and everyone's kind of waiting on somebody else to do it. That was I don't say that was the issue last year, but there were times where when Georgia was struggling, you kind of feel like everybody's waiting on somebody else to do it. And then once one guy did, it snowballed. Everybody's making plays everywhere, and that's what you had in those 2 title runs. So I'm with you there. It's just I think we feel like it's a cliche, Coach, when we just say play harder, but Kirby was adamant today that that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that fire. I'm looking for those guys who want to make big plays and not play not to lose, but play to win.
Yeah, you're basically prepping your team for the schedule that you're getting ready to play.
Mm-hmm.
And you can sell your players on pretty much you're not going to play against anybody much better than what you're practicing against. And how you react to these practice situations, which are set up to be as game-like as they can be, will tell me what your capabilities are and how you can help our team. And some guys look better one-on-one than they do 11-on-11 because a guy might have a few deficiencies, but you can make the calls around that because you got 10 other guys out there to help them. And
right.
That's what you got to do. And I would just say this about last year. We had too many plays where 9 or 10 guys did really good, and then one guy made a big mistake, and the whole team suffered from it. So that's what's tough about football. You got 11 chances on every play to do well or do poorly or do average or do fair or do good. And the teams that consistently play as a unit are the ones that win.
Speaking of winning, I want to take a minute to mention a couple of our sponsors here who are big winners, not only for sponsoring us, but for being a part of UGASports.com. Let's start with Athens Ford. I want to mention the fantastic mobile system they have, the mobile service. They will come out and do mobile service for any scheduled mobile maintenance. You get $20 off. They do oil changes, multi-point inspections, lamp and bulb replacements. So you've got an issue with, headlight being out, something like that, they can fix it for you. Recalls, if you get something that's like, hey, there's a little bolt here that needs to be fixed, they can do that as well. Battery replacements, you go out and the battery, it kind of doesn't want to start. You hear that very slow, it won't quite turn over, that chugga thing. It's like, oh, man. Well, what are you going to do? Call them up. If you're within 20 miles of Athens, they will come out and do it. Also, key replacements. It's like, hey, I'm locked out. I lost my keys. They can do that. So go to Athens Ford. They'll come to you. They'll service it. Then they'll be on their way. And just go to athensford.com and schedule your maintenance. It's very simple. Also want to mention our friends at Your Pie because we are very close to Pie Day, 3/14, March 14th, pie. You're able to get one of their big pizzas for $5. So get ready. Go ahead and start ordering it now. I mean, today's the 11th. You got 3 days away. You've been able to order for some time. Go ahead and order your $5. That's it. For the full size pizza from Your Pie. It's their busiest and most impressive promo they do every year. When they first started, they were doing it for $3.14, and they lost their shirts on it. But for $5, I mean, who gives you a custom-made pizza for $5? So hit up our friends at Your Pie. It's this week. Jump on Pie Day. You'll be very glad you did so.
Coach, I know you're not Ron Corson, but when Kirby Smart talked about some of the guys that are missing in the spring and just the number of labrum tears, and he said it wasn't more than usual. They just expect to have 5 or 6 shoulder surgeries at the end of a football season, Monroe Freeling being among those. Kirby even mentioned that when he played for you that he had to have a shoulder surgery like that. What is it about shoulders after a football season that require that?
Well, you just look at the contact that's the area that gets more contact than any shoulder area. So no matter how much you lift or no matter what, you're exposed to that area, and that's the one that everybody has the most issues. Obviously, you get the knee and ankle sprains and things like that, and then the knee tears. But fortunately, it's good that you can do it in the spring and then have all spring and summer to rehab and get ready. But they can do so much outside of the labrum with practicing movement, doing the shadow drills, doing the standing behind your position and getting the mental rep. So they're all out there working out, that doing everything they can except the contact.
Yeah, I'm trying to go over. So you had Gabe Harris also had will miss practice. He's outside linebacker. Christian Miller's out. Defensive back Jalen Morgan's out. Tight end Colton Heinrich is out. Again, that was 5 shoulder surgeries, so that's a bit much. Brian Montgomery, the quarterback, we know he's out with the ACL. He's coming back from that. Running backs Branson Robinson and Roderick Robinson out, and punter Bet Thorson. He hurt his non-punting knee, so he's got that one. I asked about Dalen Everett. Kirby said that he's going to be limited because of a sports hernia, and Joseph Jonah Ajonye had foot surgery. But Kirby said he looks good. He's running, so hopefully we'll see JJA out there. So a lot of guys getting reps.
Yeah, JJ had that right almost in the middle of the year, so he should be doing some stuff. I would think. I would hope.
I hadn't considered Thorson's recovery time. I mean, that's going to be butting right up against the season, right? With an ACL. I mean, I know it's not he still has to plan
ACL
on
and MCL.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be an interesting scenario because the non-contact involved as a kicker, but the guy could run into him, so you just don't know how his plant foot is going to affect him on his kicking. But it'd be good experience for the other guy to get in there and practice too. So we're going to have to get 2 new gunners. We lose both of those guys too. So both of them. I was talking to Daniel Jeremiah. He said probably both those guys get drafted 1 round higher just because of the way they cover kicks on special teams.
Well, I love it. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars just because you decided to do special teams the right way. That's good stuff.
Talking about Arian and Lovett both, but they're both going to be later draft choices for sure. But
I know
coaches love those guys that'll cover kicks.
We have a few questions. Which ones we have from the dog vent? Let's get those, and then we'll do the ones in the comment section here, and then we'll get the ones from Facebook.
Sounds good. We'll start with Bulldog Ben. What is the least concerning position group on the team? Inside linebacker or tight end, maybe? How does the offense change from last year in terms of identity? We talked about the offensive identity a ton. Least concerning position group, Coach. Where do you feel like George is the strongest?
That's an overwhelming question because there's certain concerns everywhere. If you talk about strength, there's always weakness and all that. But certainly we got some good players lined up at linebacker and tight end as far as returning players. And running back wise, if we get healthy there, we should have a lot stronger depth situation there with the fact that Bowens and the other kid got to play some to go with the Robinsons, and we got the kid coming in, and then of course I think Frazier among the better players in the country. As far as the strengths, what are we going to try to do? I would say probably do a little bit more play action with Gunner, more bootlegs, nakeds, rollouts. I mean, that's his style. Maybe some more predetermined quarterback runs just because he can do that. And then with Ryan, a lot more of what we did last year with Beck because similar type profile as far as arm strength and height and everything like that. So it'll be good for our defense to see a variety at quarterback just to get them ready for the schedule they're going to be playing.
I think the answer from Kirby was inside linebackers because we got 3 players today. 2 of them were inside linebackers. CJ Allen and Raylan Wilson spoke to the media today. So I'm like, okay, that kind of tells me what he's got with Chris Cole and Justin Williams behind them.
Yeah, I mean, and then that other guy coming in too. It's here, so I think that's certainly a strength. And then corner is going to be better from a depth perspective. I think it'll help those corners maybe ever missing some just because they'll get more reps, full speed. So, but I look for those guys to really make a move.
I know Georgia loses a lot on offensive line, but to lose as much as it did and to still have as much game experience between Green and Freeling, like high-level championship kind of experience, that's pretty rare to have that kind of turnover and what we're going to see at Pro Day and to still have 2 guys like that at tackle.
Yeah, I mean, both of them have had a lot of reps at the left tackle, and both of them started playing some right tackle last year. And, you know, when you look at it, it would have been great to have Jared Wilson back. He only had 1 year here, but he proved why he went out early. Look at ways he can get drafted high. But when Drew Bobo had his shot last year, he came through really well, and he's among the better athletes in our offensive line. He was a high school basketball player. He got really good feet. You just look at some of the tape and see the way he gets to the second level, the way he can move and get down the field. And he's very intelligent as far as making the calls, and I'm glad we got him.
I mean, stat-wise, he's the best quarterback in his family.
Yeah, I mean, 1 for 1, yeah. Yeah, that was good.
Hey, and I know you got Colton Heinrich, you know, and the all the tight ends coming back. That's a fun group, but Ethan Barber and Elias Williams.
Yeah.
Elias Williams. Jeez. I don't know what Todd Hartley got stuck up his butt, some horseshoe. You know, that dude is the luckiest tight ends coach of all time.
I tell you what, the guy does his homework and he studies and you know, he really works at these guys coming out of the early. I mean, I got a message the other day from a guy that played for me at Marshall that lives up in Chicago, and he said he's coming down to the spring game with his daughter's boyfriend that Georgia's recruiting. And I hit him back and said, what grade is he? He said he's in the 10th going into the 11th. And so I hit up Hartley. I said, Hartley said, yeah, he's legit. I said, what do you know about him? He liked the fact that I knew this. But the point is, you can't get started on him too early. I mean, the guy's got 25 offers already. So that's what you got to do. You got to go after the premier guys. And if you just look at our MO and you look at the guys that we putting in the pros and this success that Washington and Bowers and all these guys are having, then that helps you get better players at that position. And the guy that I would say to watch out for beside Lucky and Delp and, you know, those 2 you mentioned is Riddell. This guy has got the GPSs of like Bowers type GPS, the way he can run. I mean, this guy is a scalded dog running. So I'm anxious to see.
He's huge too, Coach.
I'm anxious to see how he blocks and all that. But watch out for that guy. I'm just making a point. And I think same thing's true with Heinrich. If he'll just get healthy, he did some really good things with our scout team and very competitive guy. I mean, really likes being at Georgia and knows his role, and he'll help us.
Big old dog was wondering who is looking really good off the hoof or making your mouth water. Sounds like Riddell gets some of that. It's a little early for a little mouth water.
Yeah, it is. But, I mean, I can't wait to get over there. But I don't like to go till he put the pads on. But I think certainly that kid from Savannah,
Elijah Griffin
has got everybody talking, and rightfully so. I understand he was really got after in the weight room too, so that helps you too when you're that big and you keep getting your strength up. But we got some eyeball takes, that's for sure.
I want to see again, I look forward to Thursday. We're supposed to be able to take photos of practice, no video, but we're supposed to be able to go watch practice. And I just remember going to bowl practice, the mandated bowl practice. And I'm looking out there, I'm like, who is that? One of the wide receivers, Elias Williams out there. I'm like, my goodness. But I'm hearing Ethan Barber's having a heck of a, off season. And I want to see the freshman, the new O-line. I want to see who's lining up beside her on the screen.
Yeah, you got old Gaston out there, and then, but Bo Hughley, watch out for Bo Hughley. I mean, he's been sitting in the weeds, and he's a guy that could help us for sure.
Hey, he's your right tackle today, so we'll see what he does.
Billy Zane wants to know, Coach, in spring ball, what do you look for in your quarterbacks, Gunnar Stockton, Ryan Puglisi, in the reps? What do you look for in them in reps?
Well, you want to see them how they run the club. Number one, their mechanics of getting the plays in and calling them, and then how they handle the stress of the position. How they handle the rush, how they handle down and distance. Decision making, I guess, is paramount. Not so much what you do, but what you don't do. By that, protecting the ball, but at the same time, not going so crazy about being conservative that you don't mind throwing it in there when you got to do it. So, but it's a lot of stuff that they look at. They do a lot of competitive drills. They keep tabs on every throw they make, and you start looking at it, and this guy has not been very good when he throws the ball in the C zone or the B zone, or when he's moving to his left, or when he has to roll out after. You look at all that stuff, and that's why they do the drills to compensate for that. But I would just say overall, just the ability to run the club, decision making, athleticism, and best part about it is getting your team across the goal line.
From James Caraway, who are the guys that look like freaks at practice and very high on Noah Thomas as an all SEC player this year, 6'6" with that speed?
Well, he's for sure got experience in the league, and he's got size. I see where Kobe Young's going to be practicing too, so we're going to have two bigger guys out there, which helps you on the red zone as far as, throwing the ball and making routine plays, which we didn't do a lot of that last year. You look back to over the years when you had guys like Bowers down there and, George Pickens, whoever it might be, we didn't have anybody that really made the difference on the goal line like those guys. Bell made a couple big catches against Tech down there, one for two and all that. But I'm not really into the point where I can say guy looks like overwhelming, freakish type looking athlete yet. But there's a lot of good players out there, and I've had pro scouts that have been by here that always say that Georgia's among, if not the best looking team on the hoof in the country.
The guy that stood out last spring, it was like, who's number 8? Who's number 8? Was Colby Young. He just looked phenomenal. You saw that. Now you have Noah Thomas, but then you're also going to have CJ Wiley. So you got a 6'3", 6'4", and 6'6" guy, all a wide receiver. And then, again, we mentioned Elias Williams earlier. What is he, 6'7", 6'8"? Technically, he's a tight end, but he was running with the wide receivers. Coach, this is a tall group. And then you got Zachariah Branch, who's super speedy, Talon Taylor, who's fast, Nitro Tuggle, Jacoby Knight. I mean, if they can catch the damn ball, this wide receiving group should be nuts.
And I think Bell will do the job too. I just think you got to believe that everybody in that room's got a burr in their saddle, just from the standpoint of they've heard about what they didn't do last year, and I'm sure they've worked hard on it. I know they've done tests on their depth perception and worked on all these different things that Ron Corson and has brought in there as far as checking that out. So I look for marked improvement there.
Coach, the thing that I'm listening for in these early news conferences from players and from Kirby Smart, I'm trying to hear who the early team leaders are, because it seemed like that was something that we probably didn't have the answer to until later than we thought last year. Here, Trevor Etienne came in and got some of that action. But I want to know who's kind of leading whatever change from last year needed to happen. And the two names today that it sounded like I was hearing, Nate Frazier, CJ Allen.
Well, here's the thing about last year. It's hard to be a leader when you're not on the field. And you got a guy like Tate Ratledge that unquestionably the leader of the O-line, and he gets hurt. And you got a guy like Etienne, and he's the leader of the backs, and he's up and down. And plus misses the first game. And then defensively, Small Munden is kind of a quiet leader, but a really good player that wasn't playing a lot because of injury. And so you just can't manufacture leadership. I mean, it's earned through battlefield, showing that you know what to do and the players looking up to you. So I agree. I mean, we need consistent leadership as much as anything.
It's 10 times harder now to be a leader, in my opinion, when you've got guys that have their – I mean, we're going to measure each other by who's NIL deal, who's got whatever car, a lot of the stuff that was not available before. You were all striving to get to the league. Nobody was being paid officially. And, it was that a leader was like, hey, look, I'm going to the league. You see how hard I'm working, then if I am holding myself to this standard, knowing I'm a first-round pick, then I expect you to do the same. But you have other guys who are like, look, I'm already getting paid. I don't have to listen to you. I can jump in the transfer portal. It's just going to be harder to lead guys when they're not all pulling the same direction. And I think that's why Kirby was saying, I'm looking for the fire. I'm looking for the guys who want to play this game. I'm not guys who are not worried about their NIL deal. And that's going to give you your answer as to who his leaders are, who's holding the others accountable, who's only concerned with loving playing football.
Good point.
Let's sneak in a break, and then we can finish with some Facebook questions.
Okay. Let's mention our friends real quick at Academia Brewing Company. They have a pretty neat thing that's going on. Of course, they always have their hospitality. You can go out there and they have the conference room, the big room for events. They, of course, have their outdoor patio, which – I mean, today would have been beautiful to be outside, in their beer garden, enjoying the day, having some of their fantastic beers. Of course, their appetizers are all 50% off from 4 to 5 and 25% off from 5 to 6. So, go over there leave work a little early, get there before 5, get half off their appetizers. If you get there after 5, it's 25% off. But this Saturday, 8 o'clock, the Y'all Ready to Laugh Brewery Tour. So they got a comedy club coming around on this Saturday at 8 o'clock out at Academia Brewing Company. Check them out when you get the chance. Great food, great supporters of UGA football. Also want to mention our friends over at myperfectfranchise.net. I was trying to think about the mystery franchise they put on our board just today. Each month, at the first of the month, they put out a franchise of the month trivia question where they describe this franchise and they give you all the bullet points on it. And if you get that franchise right, you win a year's membership to UGASports.com. So you can give it away. You can add it to your current membership, whatever you want to do. And I was just thinking about it. I'm like, I didn't put my guess in. But if you're looking to change your career, change your life, or somebody else that wants to, reach out to myperfectfranchise.net, speak to Andy Ludecky. He will guide you through the process and get you into the right franchise for you. So hit him up.
I have a super chat to thank Captain Guy Bob, one of our most loyal, Roddy, friend of your family, I believe. I'm ready for the 2025 season to start. Looking good, Coach Roddy and Dayne.
Let's get ready. We got 4 or 5 more months, but I'm ready too.
FIROR. The Fears family is just awesome. Captain Bob's got amazing children, one of whom I employed, one of whom all of my employees were in love with. So that's
one of the best things Brian Paul Bear Bryant ever said was there are two sports, football and spring football.
I saw somebody today under the first comment when we put up the Kirby Smart video was, there's two seasons. There's football season and waiting for football season.
Yeah.
Hey, that first game, Coach.
I like all these other sports, so I've enjoyed.
I know you do.
I'll tell you what I've enjoyed the last couple of days is free agent frenzy on NFL Network. All these guys moving around, and I was glad to see Justin Fields. I really think he'll light it up there with the Jets.
And Leonard Floyd's coming home.
Yeah, I mean, finally Falcons bringing him. He get a 1-year deal for $10 million. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I love it. I'm excited to see him.
There's a good example. San Francisco 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, and they put all that money out for all these players, and now Brock Purdy's going into his last year, and they've been paying him $700,000 a year. Now they're going to have to pay him $50 million, and they're having to drop players like flies. I mean, they let Greenlaw go. They let some and Debo Samuel, Bosa. It might be able to come play with his brother now. They got more money there. Chargers let him go. So, but it's just amazing. And then Minnesota lets Sam Darnold go, and I guess they feel like J.J. McCarthy can do it.
Well, we talk about turnover in college football. You mentioned the 49ers. I'm looking at the Seahawks and saying they've dismantled everything and then given all that money to Darnold for 3 years. We'll see if it works out. But, I mean, Geno Smith, DK Metcalf.
Yeah, they were 10-7 but didn't make the playoff. And, they just got to generate some offense. We'll see how it works.
McDonald has a job this year ahead of him. He needs Darnold to be really good. That's former Georgia GA McDonald up at Seattle as their head coach.
Right.
Where's Aaron Rodgers going to go, Coach?
Probably out to Lake Tahoe and play golf. I don't know. They're talking about maybe the Steelers or even Minnesota, but he's definitely still got it. But I can't see him going to the Giants. I mean, he's only going to play 1 or 2 more years. You've got to go with a contender, and not many. The only 2 that are out there really that need a quarterback, or I guess they're going to let Russell Wilson go, the Steelers, but Steelers and Vikings.
All right, let's jump into some of the questions here from Facebook. This one's from Patrick O'Connor. He says, we know Gunnar Stockton will be quarterback 1A going into camp, and deservedly so. Will Ryan Puglisi be given equal opportunity to be the starter? There's something about this guy. He's all business and finally healthy.
Absolutely he will be. I mean, there's nobody out there that has their job won. We have tremendous competition day in and day out. That's why you see people during the season, Kirby says so-and-so is going to start because the other guy didn't do good enough in practice. So quarterback's a little bit different. It's hard to make that change once the season goes. But right now, you really can't evaluate a guy unless you put him in with the first team, see how he reacts against playing with his cohorts that are first-team players too. So he'll get every opportunity for sure.
J. Scott Williams says, it's all about the O-line, but I think we're okay. Lots of playing time. What about the D-line, Coach?
Well, we got, we lose some pretty good players there, that are just played a lot of snaps when you look at how many times Stackhouse was in there and, Darian Dawkins and also Warren Brinson. So, but I do feel like we got some thickness up there, some guys that can run and take on blocks. And, I'm hoping this Griffin guy is going to come in and make some immediate impact. And JJ gets back and can play after the surgery. But I think McLeod really showed he can play. And Hall, certainly he's got everything that you want. That's another injury that hurt us last year. Depth-wise, he could have played to really help us. But I think our line's going to be better just because our linebackers are so good that you're concerned about the second level. If you're an offensive team, you got to control the second level because they can be so disruptive that sometimes you don't take the first level and secure it. Example, when we played Missouri that year, we were so concerned about their linebackers. We weren't controlling the offensive line against the D line, and they were penetrating on us, and took us 3 quarters to get going there. We finally won in the fourth quarter there in Columbia. But I think the way our linebackers can move and the way that, Schumann will move them around and put them on the edge and all really help our D line.
Trying to think of speaking of defensive line, who was the names are just killing me. JJ Haney. That's one to keep
Germany,
the German guy.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm hearing stuff about him. Okay.
Yeah, you got to figure he'd go out and buy everybody a beer or something. But he's definitely a interesting background, that's for sure, and very athletic. So I'm looking forward to see how he does.
Yeah, 6'5", 270. Let's see what he can do.
He's going to get a lot bigger too.
Yeah. Steve Wonham says, Coach, when was the last time we had a real, in all caps, real dual threat quarterback? We have guys who are capable, but we never seem to call QB runs. They all seem like scrambles.
I think Stetson Bennett, did he watch him play?
I don't know if he's considering him to be a dual threat, because it did look like a lot of stuff that he did was kind of a scramble, but there were.
You mean maybe I'm not trying to. He's definitely. I don't mean to belittle his question, but we didn't call a lot of quarterback runs with him because Kirby wanted to protect him. But if he's not a dual threat quarterback, I don't know what you want. But certainly he and the same thing's true with Gunner. He'll be like that. Maybe not quite as quick as Stetson, but maybe a little more bulk. Justin Fields was probably the most dual threat guy we've ever had.
Yeah, and we didn't see a whole lot. Didn't get the chance to see a whole lot of that. Jeremy P. Here's another philosophical question for you, Coach, or hypothetical. It says, why don't we have a big donor like Nike? Atlanta is the home of a ton of businesses: Coke, Home Depot, Delta. I guess he wants to know, you see what's going on in Oregon and has for years, but why doesn't Georgia have somebody step up like Phil Knight has done at Oregon?
Well, a lot of these companies that are based there, they've got other opportunities as far as different schools that they have to worry about beside us. So I really don't know about any one particular company. The guy from Aflac is maybe a Georgia grad, but isn't that right? I think he is. But and they do some things for us, but it's just hard to get a company like. I mean, Phil Knight is just a unique situation, and he's turning 88. And he's getting a little bit older now, but he was very, very smart when the NIL came out, and he just dedicated that Nike store, that everything that was Oregon based went through that one store right there in Eugene, and all the money went straight to the athletic department for NIL. Very smart.
See, I figured if you're Home Depot or you're Delta and you're like, hey, we're going to sponsor, put a lot of money behind UGA, then you took off your Texas fans, the Alabama fans, all of it. But it doesn't hurt Nike. Nike's, hell, they sell shoes to all of them. It's like, why don't all the schools boycott Nike? Then they don't. They're like, we're still going to buy all your Nike gear.
Nike helps a lot of schools. I mean, they got good programs with everybody. I mean, they just don't give them shoes. They get everything with their, everything about them, all their equipment. But in Delta's case, I mean, they've helped us with. They've helped our NIL with. I know from the standpoint of giving vouchers for travel and things like that for our athletes. But you always get involved in the corporate structure about legality and worrying about, guys getting in trouble, everything. There's a lot of things involved when you start getting a company to put money into you.
And sometimes you got a head of marketing who's an Auburn fan, or a vice president who went to Texas. So sometimes,
yeah, I mean,
headwinds.
It's always good when you go in the door and find the guy's got a Georgia diploma on there, and you start talking to him. That doesn't hurt.
Yeah. All right, that was the last question we had for Facebook, and that's all. That's actually all the time we have for this week. So,
well, went pretty fast. I'm glad I'm about to fall asleep here, but
you got pro day to wake you up tomorrow, Coach.
Yep, and I got my pro day in the morning too. I got big tests, so I'm everybody out there pull for the whole coach. I hope I make it through it.
We got faith.
I joke with him that it was an IQ test, Roddy.
Yeah, how'd that go for you?
Well, it's people know that I'm not a complete idiot, but I'm right on the verge. But
you would kick its ass.
All
right, folks, that's all the time we have for this week's show. Tune in. We might have to do it the same because probably next Tuesday will be when Kirby meets with the media again. We'll see.
Oh, we'll see how that goes.
But we'll see. Either way, we'll talk to you folks next week. Y'all take care.